Good afternoon. Welcome to Life Talk. My name is Dr. Casey McNeal. I'm excited to be here on 980 WCAP. I'm so excited to be welcome to the family. And today I have a very special guest initially, which is our station's owner, Mr. Sam Polton. Sam, how are you?
I am just aces, and I'm here because we're very excited to have Casey McNeal joining the 980 WCAP lineup. I can't believe that you've been a hidden gem all this time in Lowell. How long have you been in Lowell?
7 years, actually. I moved up here for love because I met my wife 7 years ago, and I was living in Annapolis, Maryland, and I moved up here to marry my lovely wife.
Well, I'm just very, very pleased. We have high hopes that this will be the feel-good show of the weekend in the Merrimack Valley, and after Warren Shaw and Tommy Duggan, we need a little feel-good, wouldn't you say?
No, I love those guys. Great programming, great shows. Listen religiously.
They are fantastic, and I'm glad you said listen religiously. You can be in two different churches if you listen to Warren Shaw and then you listen to Tommy Duggan. It's like hitting all the religious bases.
And that's what makes it great.
But it's great having the good doctor who's not a clinical psychologist. I don't know what that means. What is a non-clinical psychologist?
Well, I'm actually a social psychologist, so my expertise is in education is in personality profiling, behavioral psychology, social psychology, the nature of why we do, what it is that motivates behavior. And so as opposed to, I do life coaching, so as opposed to working with mentally ill patients and that sort of thing as people would do in the clinical setting, I work with what we call the worried well, which is most of the rest of us in the world.
It's actually everybody that works here at 980 WCAP, and I was very intrigued by your analysis of the morning team. I thought that you were spot on with Teddy and Kim.
Oh, yesterday when I had the interview yesterday and leading up to the show, and during a break they actually asked me if I would read them because one of my specialties is in reading people, and one of the things we'll actually talk about on our show.
You were better than a psychic. And speaking of reading, I'm going to read my way out of here so that people can enjoy the next hour. And once again, on behalf of everybody here at 980 WCAP, we're welcoming Dr. Casey McNeal. And he gets it. So stay tuned for a lot of fun. And we're yours. We're hoping to make the show bigger and better.
That is my hope as well. Thanks a lot, Sam, for joining us. I'm delighted to be here. You know, when we were thinking about names for this show and what we would call it, the Dr. Casey McNeal Show, or what the name would be, and I thought, well, I really want to be able to talk about a lot of different things, and so came up with the name Life Talk for the show. And I found it interesting that when I was talking to some friends about the name of the show, and they said, what's the show called? And I said, it's called Life Talk. They said, great, what's it about? And I had thought that I had painted the canvas pretty broadly on that, but just so that we can drill it down, we're going to be talking about all things that have to do with our life. Nothing is really off limits here. We're going to talk about relationships and personal and professional, dealing with difficult people in the workplace and in your life, how to enhance your communication style, stress management and life balance techniques, and even finances, all the things that really affect your world, our world, my world, the world that we live in. In addition to that, we want to have a lot of fun along the way. And I hope that everybody's up for that. Sometimes people tune in and think, hey, no fun. You know, that's where we draw the line. But I think that it's important for us to introduce fun into our lives. And today we're going to have a lot of fun. And I've got two great, fabulous guests for you today. One of my guests today is Mr. Unstoppable, Jay Platt. This guy is unbelievable. You think you've got challenges in your life. This is a man who suffered a bout with cancer, lost an eye from it. He had back problems from his cancer, and he was a Gunnery Sargeant in the Marine Corp and did not let that stop him at all. As a matter of fact, this is a guy who swam from Alcatraz to shore with his hands and feet tied. Yeah, that's right. So you'll be wanting to stick around to hear my interview with Jay Platt. Also on the show today, author Judi Moreo, who's the author of the best-selling book, You Are More Than Enough. You've read the book. Today, you're going to meet the legend, Judi Moreo. But first, I want to begin by talking a little bit about our formatting here. As I said before, we want to learn to live, laugh, love, and learn more in our lives. Enhance your life. Live your best life. We'll be taking questions. You can call up at 978-454-4980. That's 978-454-4980 to our studio here at 980 WCAP. We will welcome your calls, and you'll be able to actually speak to Judi Moreo today and Jay Platt. If you'd like to call in and ask some questions, we're fielding questions today. And as a matter of fact, in anticipation of our show today, I actually have a life challenge segment that I want to introduce. So each day I'm going to pull a little question out of the grab bag, something that I've asked people or invited people to bring in questions to us. So we're going to have a life challenges question today, and we're going to propose that to our esteemed panel that we'll have with us today. And I'm also going to introduce some life facts every week and teach you a little bit of techniques. You know, a lot of times people, when they're talking about motivation and living a better life, and I find that when you hear a lot of motivational speakers, of which I am a motivational speaker, but I'm the reality-based motivational speaker, I find that a lot of folks are kind of selling optimism. And if something that Kim Saltmarsh mentioned yesterday on the air was that, hey, you know, I go to these things, I listen to motivational speakers, I feel pretty good for about a day, and then everything goes back to the way it was. And I think the reason why that happens is because we don't have any solid tips for actually enhancing our lives. What can we do step by step? And so these are the kinds of things that we want to introduce here on the show and explore all aspects of life in that way and the challenges that you have. So let's begin today, though, with an unusual life fact. Unusual life fact. Did you know that 6-year-olds laugh on average 300 times a day? That's right. 6-year-olds laugh on average 300 times a day. Adults only laugh 15 to 100 times a day. And I think that 100 might be only if you're watching a comedy movie on television or something like that. And so how can we get the laughter back up in our lives? We need to have a lot of laughter because it produces a great chemical in your body known as endorphin, and endorphin countermands stress. And so this is one of the techniques that you can use to help your stress balance. I have a child who is 18 months old. His name is Liam. Very, very proud of him. Great little boy. And I'll tell you, we can learn a lot from children. And I think that it's a great idea to observe children and the childlike sense of wonder that they have so that we can regain some of those things back in our lives. I mean, think about it. I've never seen a 6-year-old kid bend over to pick up marbles and say, oh, my sciatica. You know, so it's just really not the kind of thing that kids would say. And so we really need to get that kind of thing back into our lives. So I wanted to tell you a little story about my son. Recently, a few weeks ago, my son and my wife and I all woke up just about the same time, and my son happens to find his way into bed with us at some time during the night occasionally. And on this particular night, he had been sleeping with us, and we woke up in the morning, and he looked at me, and he looked at my wife, and he said, ta-da! And I thought, you know, really, that is the best way for everybody to start their day. And I think that that's tip number one for you, is to start your day positive. And that brings me to what I would like to call our life challenges bag. I'm going to pull a question out of the life challenges bag. We've got a question from Sue from Chelmsford, Mass. And this is the question that she's asked. Life challenge question of the day. How do I keep myself centered and positive when I have so much stress and discouraging situations in my life? P.S. I have a very stressful job and I deal with a lot of angry people at my work. Well, that's a perfect question for today, because today we're going to share some tips to help you. Let's begin and think about this. When you consider all the aspects of life, you think about every situation that you have ever been in, every encounter that you have ever had with anyone, who is always there? That's right, that would be you. And so I want us to begin our discussion of our life talk in talking about ourselves and how we can actually meet the challenges of our day and have a better day overall. So let's begin with, how do we change our attitude, have the right kind of attitude, and keep that attitude throughout the day. So I'm going to share with you a couple of tips from my books. I have a couple of great books, Building Relationships, How to Work with People, and Life Choices. I have a series in the Life Choices series of books, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But in the Building Relationships book, I can give you a lot of tips on how to start your day positive. So tip number one, you got to be able to choose your own attitude. You know, we can't choose the things that happen to us. We can't choose the things that people are going to say to us. We can only choose the way we respond to the things that people say to us and the situations that happen to us. And I want you to remember that your attitude is always a choice. So where does it begin? First thing in the morning. Now, consider this. I don't know what your attitude is like when you first wake up in the morning. You know, if you wake up in the morning, you think, hey, cool, I get to do this again. That would be a lot like me, because I feel that way every day. I love my job. I love the things that I do. I love to help people. I travel all over the world and speak at conferences and seminars and workshops. And I'm very, very excited to help people. And so I love it every day when I get up. I look forward to the opportunities that I have. How do you feel about the opportunities that you have in the day? I mean, do you wake up and think, hey, cool, I get to do this again about your work? Or do you wake up and think, how many sick days do I have left? You know, if that's the thought process that you have, then it's going to be something that we'll want to work on for you. So consider that. So, and I also wonder, why is it that we wake up sometimes sore from sleeping? I guess that 8 hours just laying there apparently really knocks it out of you. So, and think about this. Do you set your alarm clock 15 minutes fast? You know, why do we do that? Play a cruel practical joke on ourselves first thing in the morning, right? I mean, you hear the alarm going off, and what's the first thing you do? Hit the snooze button. Now you're giving yourself the same bad news every 9 minutes, you know. So instead, when you hit that snooze button, some people I find even go through phases of snooze. I mean, phase one, they hit the snooze button. They're thinking, I'm not really hungry. Then a few minutes later, it goes off again. Boop, boop, boop. Now you're hitting it thinking, I'm pretty clean. You know, and so we continue to go through and hitting the snooze button. And then you wake up, oh, I'm late. Now you're running around with your hair on fire. Not the best way to start our day. So what I would recommend to you, and this is going to come as a shock maybe, and you might not think this tip will work, but I want you to try it. Get up 15 minutes earlier than you would normally get up. And you think, come on, Casey, that's the tip. Yeah, actually it is. But here's the thing. When you think about your morning, they always say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. What you feed your mind in the first few minutes that you're awake is going to be one of the things that can help you throughout your entire day. So you want to start your day positive by feeding your mind positive thoughts right first thing in the morning when you first wake up. I call them 15 sanctuary minutes. This is time just for you. You know, take a walk, take a bath, stare out the window. I personally recommend that you might avoid the news for just a few minutes. And I know some of you think, oh, I have to listen to the news because I have to listen to the news because every time I hear I have to hear the traffic reports and I have to hear the weather and I have to know what's going on. That's great. I agree with you. But remember, if you're getting up 15 minutes earlier than you would normally get up, you wouldn't have heard any of that for 15 minutes anyway. So just don't start your day with that because, you know, what's the news about? It's often bad news. You know, they want you to think that it's good news. They say, oh, raging brush fires burning out of control in Texas. But coming up after the break, a cat that can say hello. You know, so that's really not something that will make you feel happy in the first thing in the morning. So I want you to start your day positive. First thing in the morning, spend 15 sanctuary minutes. This is time just for you. During that time, I encourage you to declare affirmations. Affirmations are positive action statements where you declare the day you actually plan to have for yourself. Now, affirmations are action verb statements. Like this: I will have a good day. I will be happy today. I will leave them better than I found them. One of my personal mottos that I adhere to every day. I will leave them better than I found them. I will smile today. I will choose my attitude today. Now, a lot of times what people say instead is, I hope I have a good day. Hope is a very nice word. But hope is one of those passive words that gives your brain the false sense that you're doing something when you're not, in fact, doing anything. So hope is not a strategy. Hope is not an action plan. Hoping that you have a good day is as if the car of life pulls up in front of your house in the morning. Are you going to get in the passenger seat and hope the car takes you where you want it to go? No. You want to declare that affirmation. I'm going to be doing the driving today. I'm going to drive the attitude today. So now you're thinking, okay, I've done some of that, and now I'm feeling pretty good. I drive to work. I'm whistling a happy tune. Then you pull into the parking lot, and you see that person's car. You know the person I'm talking about, the one at work that makes your eye twitch, the person that drives you crazy, and then all of those good feelings start going out the window. So you try and sneak into the office. You're hoping, oh, maybe they won't notice me. But no sooner do you sit down in the chair, here they come around the corner, right? Making that beeline straight to you. All the while they're coming up to you, you're thinking, what is it now? What is it now? Oh, I thought we already worked that out. By the time they get up to you, you're like, what is it? So the next tip I will tell you is once you've got that good attitude going, you need to maintain self-control. In the book Sun Tzu, The Art of War, there's a passage that reads, the person that controls an army of 10,000 is powerful. The person that controls themselves is invincible. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. So here's my favorite metaphor for self-control so that you can keep it in tune for yourself. If you picture a guy in a grocery store, he's pushing his 2-year-old son in the cart. The kid is going crazy, screaming, wailing, yelling. All the while that father's saying, Justin, calm down. Justin, take it easy. Pretty soon the kid's throwing stuff out of the cart. He's ripping stuff off the shelves. He's doing that back arch thing, Still that father's calmly saying, Justin, come on, take it easy. Justin, calm down. Pretty soon this lady comes up to him and says, sir, I've been watching you, and I guess I should commend the calm way you're trying to handle your son Justin here. Says, lady, I've got news for you. I'm Justin. So, sometimes when things are crashing down around us, you got to be able to say, take it easy, me. Take it easy, me. So that you can be responsive to the situations that you have rather than reactive. Have you ever seen parents in the mall when their kids are kind of tearing up things and they do that counting business? Now, no psychologist that I know endorses the counting thing. The kid's tearing up and the parents are yelling at him, hey, Tyler, get down from there. Tyler, you get down. Tyler, get down. 1, 2, and they start counting. Now, you know that whenever you count a kid out until 3, the kid always waits until 3. So then I find the parents fractionalize. They say 2.89, But here's the thing. Why do you think the kid waits until 3? I want to give you new ways of looking at old problems. Why do you think the kid waits until 3? I can imagine the kinds of thoughts that you might have. Well, they know that nothing will happen until 3. They know that sometimes people say they're pushing the boundaries. They're pushing the limits. Well, they know they've got until 3. Well, as promised, a new way of looking at this old problem. The kid waits until 3 because the parent taught him to wait until 3. You trained them to wait until 3. It's called a conditioned response. Does Pavlov ring any bells? So here's the thing. When we consider the counting thing, really, this is what it's about. The kid waits until 3 because he's been taught to wait until 3. Now, this is really not a lesson about little kids. It's a lesson about life. And the lesson is a very important one I want you to learn, and I would encourage you to write this down. People don't treat you the way you deserve to be treated. They treat you the way you teach them to treat you. That's how they treat you. So I want you to remember that as we go on discussing the difficult people that you deal with in your life, that people treat you the way you teach them to treat you. Sometimes this is by our actions. Sometimes it's by our omission of action. If you're a negative person and people don't want to be around you, that's because you train people not to want to be around you because you're some kind of a buzzkill. If you find that people trust you with a secret and you blabber it all over the place, then people don't trust you with a secret anymore, then clearly you have trained them that you can't be trusted with the secret. And so this can also be, and I think that this is most important for those of you that are struggling with assertiveness issues in your life, sometimes when you allow yourself to be acted upon in a negative way by someone else and you don't stand up for your basic human rights, you're teaching them that it's okay to treat you that way. And they're just going to keep on doing it. And it doesn't get better. As a matter of fact, more often than not, it gets worse. And so we will be exploring throughout our series new ways that you can actually improve your communication with people, stand up for your rights, and do it in a way that doesn't upset the rights of someone else. Never lose or let someone take away your self-respect, and never take anybody else's away from them. Now, we deal with a lot of negative people, and those negative people might in fact be you, and that's okay, because welcome to the human race. We all have negative thoughts and negative feelings and negative processes in our lives. And, sometimes people say to me, Casey, the problem's not me, it's them. It's not me, it's them. The problem's not me, it's all of them. And I can understand that up to a point, but after a while, that's like a man who's married and divorced 27 times says all of his wives were impossible to get along with. I'm thinking, oh, really? Well, what do all those people have in common? Well, that's that one person. So remember, at the center of all the things in your world is you. And today, we're going to help you to choose your own attitude and do so in a better way. So what I want to do first is to bring on my first guest, Mr. Unstoppable, Jay Platt. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Jay. Our first guest is the executive director of the No Matter What Foundation. In 1998, he was retired from the Marine Corps as a Gunnery Sergeant after a rare form of cancer attacked his eyes, brain, spine, and kidneys. Now, refusing to quit, he rebuilt himself and became an adventure athlete, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for charities and doing things that'll make your head spin. He was one of fewer than 300 people ever to southbound thru-hike the more than 2,100-mile Appalachian Trail. He wrote a great book about that called A Time to Walk. I love the book, and I would encourage you to run, don't walk, and get that. He's one of only 3 people in the world to swim from Alcatraz Island to San Francisco, and he did it with his hands and feet tied. He is the only person in history to swim across the Mississippi River while handcuffed, shackled, and blindfolded. He's the author of No Matter What, How to Be Unstoppable Despite the Obstacles Starting Today. He's the director, star, and producer of the soon-to-be-released documentary film Living Unstoppable. Now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Unstoppable, Jay Platt.
Hey, Casey, how are you, my friend?
All right, Jay, how are you?
Doing outstanding.
So, how's the weather in the Carolinas?
Actually, it's very nice today. We've had it off and on, raining and that type of thing, but today it looks pretty nice out there.
Now, Jay, I gave you the introduction and discussing the things that people commonly know who know about your past and overcoming the obstacles of cancer and the loss of your eye and the challenges with your back and not letting that stop you. But what a lot of our listeners don't know that I know is that only a few short weeks ago you had some surgery. Tell us about that.
Yeah, after I did my Mississippi swim, actually it was right before the Mississippi River swim, I started getting headaches. And as soon as I did the swim, I was just very dizzy and just really bad headaches. And so I went to the doctor and had a brain tumor. And so I had to get that brain tumor taken care of. Happens to be part of the condition that I have called von Hippel-Lindau. And so it'll be 7 weeks from this coming Tuesday when I had the actual surgery. And so I'm sort of still in the recovery stage. As I told you, this is a good way for me to get back out there. And because it is you, I'm doing this interview. It's the first interview I've done since surgery. And
I am so honored to have you. And I'll tell you, Jay, I have to tell our listeners that, we're connected on Facebook. And, it seemed to me like only a few short days after Jay had the surgery that he was out on Facebook with a video clip for everybody saying, hey, thanks for your prayers and kind thoughts and kind words as I went through this difficult struggle. I'm on the mend. I'm on my way back and looking for the next adventure. And I'm telling you, if there was anybody in the world who deserves the title of Mr. Unstoppable, it is you. So let me ask you this, Jay. Why do you do these crazy things, this swimming it from Alcatraz to shore, across the Mississippi, that sort of thing? Why do you do this stuff?
Yeah, you know what? Most people would, and I understand that, would think, man, that is just crazy to do that. And A big part of it, Casey, though, is because it's something that people would expect me not to do. When the Marine Corps retired me, they basically sent me home and said, the best years of your life are long past, and they just kind of go home and fade away. And so I did not want to do that. And so for me, I do physical challenges just to show what is possible, because I'm a firm believer that you never know who may be watching you. And I want people with cancer and other chronic illnesses to say, you know what, if that guy can do the things he does. I mean, I've said for years that I hope that people will look at me and say, if a one-eyed guy with a brain tumor can do what he does, then, what in the world can I do? And so I'm always thinking of things that, that I can do to push myself. And so my latest one was to swim across the Mississippi River. And, I've got other things on the horizon, other things that I still want to do, and I continue to challenge myself.
Well, indeed you do, and I know that you'd be an inspiration to all of our listeners, and that's why I was really, really excited that while you're on the mend, you were willing to call in and share with us some of these great techniques that you use. I mean, what do you think what would you say is the phrase or thing that you've heard or something that captured you that really changed your life?
Well, the one phrase just sticks in my mind, and I'm sure it's someone that you know and you're probably a fan of. When I got into the whole self-development, personal development world, and this has probably been 12, 13 years ago, a friend of mine recommended that I listen to he's a motivational speaker named Les Brown.
Oh, yes, my good friend Les Brown. Love him.
Yeah, Les is wonderful, and anybody knows him. He's great, and I could go on and on about him. But I listened to a tape series. This is back when people listened to tapes. It was before CDs and MP3s and that kind of thing. But I listened to him, and it's called The Power of Purpose, and great information in there. But one thing that really stood out is when Les said this. He said, "Used to be's don't make no honey." Now, if you know Les, he says it in a real big booming voice, but used to be's don't make no honey. And I said, man, that's how people talk about, back when I used to do this, back when I used to be a Marine, or I was a high school quarterback and all this stuff. But that doesn't matter. It's what are you doing today? And so that really sticks in my mind. I'm always thinking about, it doesn't matter what you used to do. What do you do now? And it doesn't have to be something physical. Don't think that. But it's like, what are you doing today? It doesn't really matter what you did 5 years, 10 years ago. So what are you doing now? And that really it sticks in my mind. And I'm just continually thinking about that and saying, you know what? It's what am I doing now?
I totally agree with you. And, sometimes people hear, we hear that expression, what have you done for me lately? How often do we ask ourselves, what have you done for me lately? What have I done for myself lately? And on that thought, Jay, I want to ask you to stick around. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back in just a minute with Mr. Unstoppable, Jay Platt. Stick with us here at 980 WCAP. Don't change that dial.
980 WCAP, Merrimack Valley weather.
Hi everyone, this is meteorologist Al Capernian with your 980 WCAP Merrimack Valley forecast. For today, we have a wind advisory in effect until 8 o'clock tonight. The high wind warning has been changed to a wind advisory. Mixture of sun and clouds today, 38 to 43 degrees. We'll have west-northwest winds 20 to 30 miles per hour. Some gusts near 40, 45 miles per hour could result in some power outages in some areas. We can't rule that out. Tonight, mostly clear. Low temperatures tonight in the low 20s. Northwest winds 15 to 20 miles per hour and gusty in the evening. And the outlook for tomorrow, not as windy, but still will be breezy. We'll have a sunny day tomorrow, 35 to 40 degrees. Northwest winds 15 to 25 miles an hour with higher gusts. Mostly clear Sunday night, lows near 20. Mostly sunny, mid-40s, milder on Monday. Mixture of sun and clouds on Tuesday, middle 40s. We could have some rain, snow, or mixed precipitation on Wednesday with a storm system a little bit earlier to call the precipitation type. But looks like moderating temperatures back in the 40s Monday and Tuesday of next week. Have a great weekend. You can also watch my weather online anytime at NationalTelegraph.com. I'm Merrimack Valley meteorologist Al Capernian for 980 WCAP. Everybody gets it.
The original and only authentic Cash for Gold has come to Lowell to bring you the same great service they've been known for in Salem since 1979. Cash for Gold doesn't just say they pay the highest prices, they actually do pay the highest prices. Cash for Gold specializes in gold, precious metals, and diamonds, and they've maintained an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau for 32 years. Cash for Gold makes people feel comfortable about selling their jewelry, whether it's out of necessity or because now is the time to take advantage of historically high gold and silver prices. You'll never hear that take it or leave it pawn shop attitude from them. Cash for Gold doesn't ever want to be confused with those places. See why Cash for Gold customers return time after time. Cash for Gold, 680 Rogers Street in Lowell. Call 978-684-2353. Open Monday through Saturday to serve you.
I'm WCAP's Kim Saltmarsh at large. Let's take a look at what made headlines this week. Pumped up gas prices fueling anger with local officials this week. Some saying a hike in the gas prices is not the best solution to solve the budget crunch. Bay State gasoline prices are up for the 9th straight week in a row. Governor Deval Patrick is now a co-chairman of President Barack Obama's re-election campaign. Obama campaign officials say the co-chairs will serve as ambassadors for the president, offer advice on key issues, host campaign events, and organizing efforts in all 50 states. And hey, if you're a breakfast lover, National Pancake Day is Tuesday. Free short stack at IHOP. For WCAP, I'm Kim Saltmarsh at large.
Hi, this is Casey McNeal on Life Talk, WCAP 980. We're talking with Mr. Unstoppable Jay Platt. Jay, you still with us?
I am here.
Awesome. Hey, man, I just got two more questions for you. I wanted to ask you about the documentary film, Living Unstoppable. Big Hollywood deal, right?
Oh yeah, huge.
So what was it that what'd you learn about Hollywood? What scared you about Hollywood? You get any nerves on that? I know you're fearless, and you could dive off the top of the Empire State Building without a parachute, I think. But what was there anything that frightened you about Hollywood?
Well, the thing about Hollywood that I have mentioned there is that we have to be very careful about what we take into our mind. Actually, when I was on the Appalachian Trail is when Hollywood really terrified me, and that's from when I'd be out in the woods at night. See, I went out there on the Appalachian Trail thinking that bears were going to be my biggest fear. It actually was just something that I was terrified by. But when I'd be out in my tent at night or flat on the ground and I'd hear something walking around, in my rational mind now I know it was just like an animal or something. But then it was all of the horror movies I'd seen over the years. It was Jason, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger. And so I just really learned that how important it is to take good information into our minds, like the stuff that we read and listen to, and listening to your show, by the way.
Thank you.
What we take into our minds always stays there. And so if we're only putting in the junk, and for me, with Hollywood, it had been all those horror movies. That's what's going to come back to us. And so that's something that I'm very aware of. And so with my documentary film and with anything I do, I try to put out good, positive information and something that you could grow from. And so when people watch that film, it won't be something that's going to scare them to be afraid to go into the water or to take a challenge. It's going to be something that they're going to say, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it. And it's really like your show, Casey. It's something good for people to listen to, and it's something they're going to grow from. And so it's something they should put on their calendar. Every Saturday I'm going to listen to this because I know I'm going to grow from it.
Awesome. I appreciate that, Jay. That makes one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really looking forward to building a big audience, and having you as an honored guest is really definitely something that helps. And I'm real grateful to you. Now, the film is called Living Unstoppable. Is that right?
Yeah, Living Unstoppable. It should be released sometime this summer. We had to have a pause in production with my brain tumor situation, but now that I'm back on the mend, we're in production right now, and like I say, sometime this summer it should be released.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you this final question then. Where can we find out more about you and your experiences, and look for the updates on the release of the film?
Yeah, I would encourage people to go to jplatt.com. It's JAYPLATT.com. I've got a blog there that I do every week, and I'd love for you to sign up, let you know when it is, send you some free gifts, and just kind of keep in touch. Also, I'm on Facebook, Unstoppable Insights. I do daily posts there, and I'd love to have you there as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. We've been speaking with the author and soon-to-be film star of the documentary film Living Unstoppable. We've been talking to Mr. Unstoppable, Jay Platt, author of the book A Time to Walk and No Matter What. Run, Don't Walk, and get those books because I know you'll grow a lot from them. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jay, here on 980 WCAP. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. Bye.
All right. Well, we're looking forward now to our next guest, somebody who I have also known for quite a long time, Judi Moreo. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Judi. Judi's a certified professional, a speaking professional. Now, there are less than 10% of the speakers in the world who hold this prestigious certification. She's presented keynote speeches, workshops, and seminars in 27 countries on 4 continents. But wait, there's more. Judi's an accomplished author, 9 books to her credit, including the best-selling You Are More Than Enough and its companion, The Achievement Journal. She's also publisher of the Life Choices book series that I have been honored to submit a chapter to, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And she is the producer of Life Choices, the event, which will be held at the Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, March 23rd to the 25th. Want you to sign up for that. She was a senior executive in major media group in South Africa during the end of the apartheid era. And prior to taking the position in South Africa, Judi was a highly successful entrepreneur. And the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce once honored her as the Woman of Achievement Entrepreneur, and in 1998 she returned to the United States. I met her right around that point when she was founding Turning Point International, a training and development company. In 2003, she was named the Nevada Business Person of the Year by the United States Business Advisory Council. Please welcome our guest, Judi Moreo. Judi, are you there?
I am. Hi, Casey. How are you?
Oh, if I was any better, I'd have to pay entertainment taxes.
And we were very, very honored to have you write a chapter for one of our Life Choices books, too.
As it was my honor. I want to take a moment and encourage our internet listeners to log in to 980WCAP.com, where you can click on the Listen Live button. If you'd like to sign up, there is an instant feedback area for you to sign up and put the city in there, and I plan to give away 3 free books to the 3 people who are farthest away who sign in on that instant feedback site. So please log in and sign in. Judi, I'm so excited to be talking to you today and have you. How's the weather in Vegas?
It is absolutely gorgeous today. It's the beginning of spring, and it's beautiful, beautiful. And I'm in art class right now. My art class is all excited about you.
Awesome. Well, even the worst day of the winter in Vegas is, I see people out there in sweaters and stuff when it's like 65 degrees or 70 degrees, and people are wearing, coats and that. And
yeah, we think that's cold.
Yeah, indeed. So I tell you, I envy out here in Boston. They say we have 4 seasons. I often think we have 2, 9 months of snow and 3 months of poor sledding. So we don't quite have the same weather here at all. Well, Judi, I want to begin right away by posing to you the life challenge topic question that we got today from Sue from Chelmsford, who said, how do I keep myself centered and positive when I have so much stress and discouraging situations in my life? She also wrote a P.S. I have a very stressful job and I deal with a lot of angry people at my work. This seems to be something that you and I in our travels and speaking and so forth have encountered, and the reason why we exist in our profession. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think where do you think these kinds of feelings come from? When people suffer from feelings of inferiority or feelings of stress and that sort of thing, where do you think a lot of these things come from?
Well, I believe that any time we suffer from feelings of inferiority or feelings of stress, that's something from our past. That's because somewhere along the line, someone has not given us the support or helped us have the belief in ourselves. And so we get these feelings of inferiority, and they're triggered by a lot of things. Sometimes when people say something negative to us or they're angry with us, it triggers a feeling of something we felt in the past, and it brings up that feeling of inferiority again. I've found that in order to deal with stress, and I have a lot of it, sometimes I think I create it for other people. In fact, I'm sure I do. But I find that some of the things that really help me is, number one is journaling. I journal every day. I write down my feelings. Sometimes you just have to get them out, So if you write it down, and nobody sees this except you. You just write it and you get it out of you, so that it's out there. And then I've taken up in my later years, I've taken up meditation, which has helped a lot. There's a difference between prayer and meditation. Prayer is when we talk to God, but meditation is when we listen for God. And it's really helped me to say, here's the issue, here's the problem, and just sit down and get quiet and stay quiet for about 20 minutes and see what comes. Because, so many of the things that aggravate us are not big things.
I agree.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was saying I agree. I think that Mark Twain once said, I've had a great many worries in my life, most of which never happened.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, so many people are talking about right now about tough times, that this is a really tough time in our economy. This is a tough time in our life. And I really started analyzing that. What causes tough times? Well, tough times are caused by when we feel like something is out of our control. Like 9/11 happened. We had no control. That affected all of us in America. It was stressful. The economy, we don't have control over that, and so it's stressful for us. Something happens to a family member, and then that becomes stressful. Or let's say something happens to us, like we get cancer, like I did a couple years ago. That becomes stressful. But it's when we feel we have no control. So what I've found is by journaling and by looking at options and by doing my affirmations and visualization, I'm taking control of some of those situations. If I visualize my outcomes, I'm taking control. And by looking at the ultimate goal, the ultimate outcome, then what happens is the steps become clear for me. And so I really believe that if we just sit down and get calm and think about what do I really want, how do I want to handle this, that's going to help us a great deal.
I agree. As a psychologist, and I've been drilling down some of the fundamental things that drive people's, behavior, and to try and explain this to folks that don't have a PhD in psychology and they're not neuroscientists and that sort of thing, that basically you're born with certain kinds of behavioral instincts. And a lot of times people think that we aren't born with behavioral instincts, but we are. And one of those instincts is that your brain is designed to protect you. It's designed to survive outside in constant motion. And so whenever we do feel like there are things that that come at us that are fearful, we actually get into a self-protection mode. And sometimes we look into our minds and we find a lot of things from our past that can create negative self-talk. And that negative self-talk is some of the things that can sort of inhibit us and get in our way. And as my wife always tells me, you got to get out of your own way. Sometimes you can't get out of your way. You got to get out of your own way. And on that note, we're going to talk about this some more. If Judi, you'll be kind enough to stay with me, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on 980 WCAP on Life Talk, where everybody gets it.
Join 980 WCAP every Sunday morning from 10 until 11 for Senior Living, presented by Visiting Angels in Chelmsford. Hear about important senior issues like investments, health insurance, nutrition, economic concerns, exercise, and medical information. That's Senior Living with Carol Kildoff of Visiting Angels in Chelmsford every Sunday morning from 10 until 11 right here on 980 WCAP, where everybody gets it.
It's that time of year again. April 15th is right around the corner. That means tax season. Every year, thousands of Americans work with seasonal tax filing companies or try to save money by filing their own taxes. And all too often, those people who are trying to save miss out on tax credits and deductions they could and should be getting. They lose out on refunds or worse, have to pay the IRS money they could have kept. This year, don't be fooled by the so-called free tax return service. Call the accounting professionals at Anstis & Company and make sure your taxes are done right and with the most benefit to you. The Anstis staff takes the time to understand your full financial situation with the friendly, personalized service you deserve. Remove the stress from your 2011 tax return. Call Anstis today, 978-452-2500. That's 978-452-2500. Or visit them online at AnstisCPA.com. That's ANSTISSCPA.com.
Hello, this is Casey McNeal here on Life Talk 980 WCAP. We're glad to have you listening with us today. We're interviewing best-selling author Judi Moreo. Judi, we were talking about fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of things that can go wrong in our lives. And as I mentioned, sometimes we dig deep into our lives and we can develop a pattern of what is known as learned helplessness because of the fact that we have situations that we feel are out of the scope of our control. And so often that's false. And you and I are both strong believers in why it's important that people understand that sometimes things we can control. There are sometimes things that we can't control and sometimes things that we can influence. And I always teach people to operate from that sweet spot, that spot of influence where we say, how can I accomplish things? But all too often things I find get in the way. For example, you know, what do you think are the dangers of people who look into their past and have the should have and if only kind of thinking that people sometimes get?
Well, our past is over. It's finished. It's done with. And that's the reason I wrote my book, You're More Than Enough, because so many of us believe that we're not enough, and that comes from the past. That comes from old voices. It comes from things that people told us about ourselves and our life. And that doesn't mean it's true just because someone else told it to us. And so if we stay future-focused, if we stay focused forward on where we're going, then we're going to be more likely to not dwell on those things from the past. If you've got goals, if you've got ambitions, if you've got desires, you're going to be more focused on doing those things and taking care of those things, and that old stuff can just fall away.
I totally agree. You know, you don't have to be, you know, one of the things that's is quite common in the therapeutic setting of psychology is a very important statement that people need to remember, that you don't need to be your past. You don't need to be your past. So many people tend to think in terms of their past. And, you know, what do you think, Judi, is the fear of failure? You know, how does the fear of failure inhibit people from growing? A lot of times people say, well, I like the idea of these things. I like the things that you're telling me. It all sounds good, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah, you know, the fear of failure is really a fear of rejection. We're afraid somebody's going to laugh at us or somebody's going to reject us or somebody's going to turn us down. Otherwise, we wouldn't care if we failed or not. But we're afraid of other people's opinions, and it's time for us to let our own opinion be more important to us than the opinion of others. That's another reason that I put together the Life Choices book series, is because the people who wrote, the authors who wrote in that, they talk about what they've been through and how they overcame it and where they're going forward. And that's why I have the event happening in Las Vegas in March, the Life Choices event, is because we're going to have our authors there, and they're going to share, you know, with their hearts about where they've been and what fears they had and the fear of failure and how they overcame those things. Because it doesn't happen just one of us. All of us go through these things at some time or another. I don't know anyone that doesn't have a fear of failure or a fear of success or a fear of rejection. We all have this at some time or another.
Indeed. And I think that a lot of times these we have, fear of failure. And often, and this is an interesting point that you bring up, sometimes people are afraid of their own success, and they don't often realize it. And so they sabotage their own success because of their fear. When we have the instinctive fear of, people have heard when a person feels like they're backed into a corner, there's an instinctive response of fight or flight. It's actually fight, flight, or freeze. People will either fight or they run away or they just stand there and do nothing. And that happens so often in our own lives. And I'm really glad that you brought up the Life Choices event. I heard that you have an eminent speaker that's going to be there in addition to yourself by the name of Dr. Casey McNeal.
We do, and we are so pleased to have him. In fact, I was at a seminar the other day, and all they could talk about at this seminar was Dr. Casey McNeal's Building Relationship program. And I was so happy I could just say, guess what? He's going to be one of our keynote speakers. You have to come and hear him. And everybody was like, really, really? He's going to be right there here in Las Vegas? And I'm like, yeah.
Oh, so thank you.
It's kind of fun to, and we also have Ann Abernathy coming. She's the oldest woman to ever enter the Olympics, and she's won the luge 6 times. She has 6 Olympic medals, from being in the luge, and that's not an easy sport.
Oh, she is so amazing. The lineup, I got to tell our listeners, if you have the chance and you want to make the chance, if you don't feel like you have the chance, to go to Las Vegas March 23rd through the 25th. We're going to be at the Tropicana Hotel for the Life Choices event. It's going to be an entire weekend of great speakers, authors from the book Life Choices. You'll be able to meet these great authors, and you'll even be able to have lunch with your favorite author when you're there. And I'm just so excited to be a participant in that, Judi. And I'm definitely honored to be working with Ann Abernathy, who's an amazing person. And also Jeff Savilico will be there. Tell our listeners about Jeff.
Oh, Jeff is wonderful. He's a headliner at the Planet Hollywood here in Las Vegas, and he also does the Disney cruise lines. I mean, every little kid in America that's been on a Disney cruise, when they see Jeff in the airport, they're like, oh, there's Jeff. I said to him, can I have your autograph? I've never seen one person have so many little kids get thrilled about him. And we also have Peter Shanklin. Peter is an incredible health and wellness person. He owns a health and wellness business. He studied in Nepal for years. He studied in Australia. He studied in Europe. I mean, he's incredible and wonderful, wonderful information on health and wellness. It's just all around it. It's like from all the different areas of our lives to help us keep our lives in balance. And they can go to lifechoicesevent.com and take a look and see who all the speakers are and what's happening and the schedule's there. And it's just going to be a terrific weekend. I'm so excited about being a part of it, much less to be putting it on.
I am excited as well, and I'm so honored that you are putting it on, and I'm honored to be a participant in that. And I encourage everybody to go to lifechoicesevent.com to learn more about how you can sign up for an entire weekend of deep immersion into self-development and to live your better life. It's going to be amazing. I'm really honored to have had you on the show today, Judi. We've had Judi Moreo, author of You Are More Than Enough, and I got to tell you all, I was very honored to be one of the first people to read it and actually gave an endorsement on the book myself. And I want you all to run out and grab You Are More Than Enough, and certainly grab the Life Choices series. There are 4 books in the series now. You can learn about the books. You can also log into my website, www.caseyspeaks.com, to learn more about my books and my events that are coming up. And please definitely sign up and give yourself a little vacay to Las Vegas, the 23rd through the 25th at the Tropicana for Life Choices, the event. Thank you, Judi, for being on the show today. It's been an honor. I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Thank you, Casey. It's been my pleasure. And don't forget, we're going to give away some of those Life Choices books.
Awesome. Yeah, indeed. And people love prizes. Thanks again, Judi.
Bye.
Well, it's been really great to be with you all today on the first show of Life Talk. My name is Dr. Casey McNeal. I want you to remember to live, laugh, love, and learn. Leave them better than you found them. And tune in here next week, Saturday at noon, for another edition of Life Talk with me, your host, Dr. Casey McNeal, on 980 WCAP, where everybody gets it.
.980 WCAP, Lowell, Haverhill, Lawrence, Methuen, Nashua, and Salem, New Hampshire, serving the Merrimack Valley.
News, I'm Deirdre Bryant. An ominous turn of events in Afghanistan. 2 U.S. military officers were shot and killed inside the Interior Ministry in Kabul. The Taliban claiming responsibility, calling it retaliation for the burning of Qurans at a U.S. airbase. NATO has now recalled all coalition personnel from Afghan ministries. ABC's senior foreign affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz.
I think this is indeed a very frightening